ended the week on a down note. The Dow dropped 271 points to 34,607. The Nasdaq was down 132 points. This is NPR.
Good afternoon. It's 5:04. I'm Avi Wolfman. This is WHYY News. The University of Delaware is reporting a spike in COVID, with cases more than quadrupling over the last week. WHYY's Mark Eichman has more from the Delaware desk.
353 students at the University of Delaware have tested positive for COVID-19 this week, a sharp rise over 77 cases reported last week and higher than any spike last school year. UD's Andrea Boyle Tippett says school leaders sent a letter to students this week warning that the rise in cases has filled campus housing set apart to be used as COVID quarantine.
The university's isolation space is limited this year, just as it is at other colleges and universities, and it is now at capacity. So students at this point who are testing positive are being asked to return to their place of residence and isolate at home.
She says contact tracing has shown that the virus has not spread inside classrooms where students are masked and socially distant. Rather, off-campus gatherings or parties is where most of the spread is happening. From the Delaware desk, Mark Eichman, WHYY News.
Meanwhile, in Philadelphia, it's a different story. Figures from this week show Philadelphia averaging 288 new COVID infections a day, down from a peak of 307 infections last week. Officials say it's possible the latest wave of COVID-19 infections has already peaked in the city. An investment fund manager from Philadelphia has admitted to orchestrating a $100 million securities fraud scheme. Federal prosecutors in New Jersey say Brenda Smith faces up to 20 years in prison and a $5 million fine when she's sentenced in January. She pled guilty yesterday. Prosecutors say the 61-year-old Smith operated the scheme from February 2016 to August 2019 using her investment firm Broadreach Capital. She lied to investors about the firm's assets and performance. Checking on sports, the Phillies are scuffling, but at least it's a nice night for a ball game. They will be down in South Philly against the Rockies. First pitch at 7:05. The Eagles play their first game this Sunday, 1 o'clock down in Atlanta against the Falcons. This is WHYY 90.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Your Part-Time Controller, specializing in nonprofit accounting. Your Part-Time Controller helps nonprofit organizations with their accounting needs, remotely or in person. More at yourparttimecontroller.com.
From NPR News, this is All Things Considered. I'm Elsa Chang in Culver City, California.
And I'm Scott Detrow in Washington. Yesterday, President Biden announced an aggressive plan to mandate vaccines for millions of Americans. It's his latest attempt to combat the current surge of COVID-19 cases in the country, fueled by the Delta variant. We wanted to hear how the president's plan sounds in some of the hardest hit parts of the country. Louisiana and Oregon are two states battling their worst coronavirus surges yet. Louisiana State Health Officer Dr. Joseph Cantor and Oregon Public Health Director Rachel Banks join me now. Welcome to both of you.
Thanks, Scott.
And let's start with Biden's plans to vaccinate private sector employees, specifically healthcare workers. Dr. Cantor, I know that vaccinating healthcare workers is a big priority for you. As of August, a third of employees in Louisiana's largest health system were not fully vaccinated. I'm wondering, first of all, do you think this mandate is the right response to this?
It's a little bit better of a situation here. As we surged with Delta, more and more people got vaccinated. We upped our percentage by about 10 percentage points because people knew people who were sick, and it was scary, and it drove behavior. So we're in a better place, but far from where we need to be. I do think it's the right call. Specifically in the healthcare setting, we have a lot of transmission amongst healthcare workers before and after work. This will cut down on that. But more importantly, it provides for safer care for the patients. It's what you or I would want if we had to receive care in the hospital.
And in Oregon, Rachel Banks, I'm wondering how you view this. ICU beds are full, cases are surging, and, specifically we have seen pushback to vaccination mandates among law enforcement and firefighters. What do you think happens next once these new mandates kick in?